Hello, Internet. I hope everybody is having a fantastic Thursday evening. We're almost there, folks. It's almost Friday. You're almost there. One more day, and you made it to the weekend. How is everybody this evening? Let's check and make sure we're live. Wally World, always on cue. Nice to see ya. Let's check over on Rumble, make sure we are indeed live, and it looks like we are, and there she is, right on cue. Scarlett, all right, let me back up. Jeez, quit pulling me. Okay, all right, jeez, you're so needy. You are so extra needy, always. All right, you good? Okay. You're being a little lovey for longer than you normally are tonight. Okay, is that enough? Can you go lay down, please? Please? Can you lay down? Please? Thank you. All right. How's everybody doing this evening? Is everybody having a fantastic Thursday? I hope we are. Tonight, I'm going to do a short show. We're just going to talk about, well, I got a little write-up kind of going like semi-viral right now. I think it's time we need to talk about pharmaceuticals and kids and SSRIs and methamphetamine and all that kind of stuff, because I don't think I have gotten into that yet. So, and you guys that have been missing Terry Wallace in the chat, she got suspended on Twitter because they thought she was a bot. So they suspended her account. She had to, I guess, prove that she was indeed a human. So that's funny. Those of you that missed Terry Wallace, she's probably hanging out over on Rumble. So, well, I'll just get right into what I got going on over on Twitter right now. I'll play the quick video that I shared, and then I'll just read what I wrote, and a lot of people appeared to identify with this. So if you guys are new here, welcome. Welcome to CaliBased, the best show on the internet. Ask anyone in the chat. There's maybe two people, and they'll both tell you it's the best thing on the internet. They probably won't, actually, but that's okay. Welcome anyway. If you're new here, I'm glad you're here. Yeah, a lot of extra people joined today. So nice to see you. If you want to help the show, give it a like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. You know, the algorithms on YouTube are not going to help people like us. There's not going to. All right, well, let's get right into it. I'll hop over, and there's like a 7-minute video that I'm going to play, and I'll pause it and talk about stuff as it goes on. But apparently there's a lot of parents out there, probably a lot of people my age, that identify with what I was talking about here. So I guess let's get right into it. So we'll talk about, Medicated America. Let's watch this quick video and talk about how it's kind of a connection that I never really made. How it's not that the pharmaceutical industries, psychologists, and the education system are in cahoots with one another, but it creates a perfect storm where teachers, I sort of think that there's a lot of teachers that aren't, I'm not saying teachers are stupid. That is not what I'm saying at all. But I don't think there's a lot of teachers in elementary school, middle school that are like super high level geniuses, and there's going to be super high level genius kids that come across their path, and they may not recognize it. They may not recognize that this kid is a genius and he needs to be nurtured and challenged, and they might identify that kid as being off the walls, bananas, and needs medication. And if you put that kid, that genius kid that needs to flourish, if you give that kid something that's just going to dull their senses, that's the last thing. That's the biggest disservice you could do to that kind of kid. And you get teachers that say your kid's acting up, they're bouncing off the walls. Maybe we should consider putting them on some sort of, maybe they should see a psychiatrist and think about being medicated. Take them to a psychiatrist. Psychiatrist sees dollar signs, prescribes them something. It's just a vicious cycle. It just goes and goes. So let's watch this video, and we'll get right into it.
Later. That's what the meds are like.
Can you say
here.
happy birthday, Teresa? Happy birthday. Can you?
It's a sad story. If it'll play.
Jacob's story begins in Los Angeles back in 1993. That's his dad, Ron, a scriptwriter in Hollywood, and Iris, his mother. Until Jacob was 3 years old, his parents say, he had no big problems.
This is Jacob at work. What are you today, a shoemaker?
Yeah.
Yeah, what are you making?
House.
But sometime after his 3rd birthday, Jacob would begin down a path taken by millions of American children. It started when a teacher suggested he was hyperactive.
He got kicked out of Mommy and Me's. You know, it was 2.5-year-old kids, 3-year-old kids. And they were saying he has no impulse control. Then saying, well, what 3-year-old has impulse control?
In preschool, another teacher suggested medication.
So the father's absolutely right there. You know, he's just a boy. He's just a young boy. And they're like, he doesn't have impulse control. And it's like, yeah, he's a young boy. Kids that are like, I don't know, probably 15 years and younger, especially boys, are just little narcissists. And that's okay. It's okay to be a little narcissist. It's not okay when you're an adult. You're supposed to be, you know, exercising your ego and all that kind of crap. So when some daycare center or a teacher goes and says your kid doesn't have any self-control, your 4-year-old kid doesn't have, yeah, they put freaking shoes in their mouth. Like, it's a kid, weirdo.
Her opinion was that there was a chemical situation going on with this child that maybe medication could help. But we thought, a 4-year-old? I mean, what, you know, why put him on pharmaceuticals at age 4?
Little boy,
He's a little kid.
For a year, the Solomons resisted medicating Jacob, but teachers persisted. Finally, Jacob's parents took him to a doctor.
Regular smile, regular.
Jacob was diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder.
Same thing I was diagnosed with. And I mean, look at him. He's making goofy faces. He's being silly. This, to me, isn't a kid that's got something wrong with him. To me, this is a kid that's standing out from the pack. This is a kid that's showing, you know, he's a funny kid. He knows how to make other people laugh. He probably takes subtle subconscious cues from other people really well. Or maybe it's the exact opposite. Maybe he's slightly autistic. That's a different story. But I'm not seeing something that's wrong with a kid here. I'm seeing a goofy kid, probably smart.
ADHD, and prescribed Ritalin.
Can I try, please?
You know what? We're not going to give you the
The Ritalin helped with the hyperactivity, but it made him anxious.
I just want to hold the videotape for 1 minute.
And so then we'd end up giving him a second medication to deal with the anxiety. And then the second medication would cause something else.
All right. So that, I mean, that's exactly it too. So they put this kid on Ritalin, and we'll go over exactly what Ritalin is. We'll go over that in a little bit. But they put him on Ritalin, and now he's anxious, meaning he's probably anxiety. Like, if it's the same thing I'm thinking, it's like that feeling like you woke up and you forgot to do your homework. Yeah, there's this constant feeling in the pit of your stomach like you forgot to do something, or you're late, or you're missing something important. That kind of feeling. Okay, all of a sudden he has this feeling because you put him on a drug. Well, what did you put him on the drug for again? Because he acts goofy? And then they're going to put him on another drug.
Some compulsive behavior or a tick. And then they'd say, okay, give him a third thing. And so finally it was like that whole, there was an old lady who swallowed the fly, and then the fly, she had to swallow the spider to get rid of the fly, and then she had to swallow the mouse to get rid of the spider. That's what the meds were like.
Can you say happy?
And this father sounds like a good dad, you know, loves his son. And it sounds like it was just pressure from people that aren't this kid's parents telling him he needs medication.
Birthday, Teresa?
Happy birthday.
Can you sound a little more excited?
At age 9, Jacob was diagnosed with a mood disorder. Doctors tried drug after drug, stimulants, antidepressants, and antipsychotics.
stimulants, antidepressants, and antipsychotics. It's all started with Ritalin. They tried all the drugs. This is insane. They're just throwing drugs at them. Try this, try that, try that. There's no science here being done.
By age 10, he had been given 8 different medications.
8.
It all started to feel out of control. So we decided that we wanted to just strip him off of everything. We have no idea how we got on as many meds as he
What up, J-Bo? Thanks for joining.
was on. So we just made a decision. We gotta pull it back. We gotta sort of strip it out and see what we actually have here.
All right. And that's a troubleshooting process. Okay. We're just going to we're going to take everything out of the equation, food, water, and that's it. And we're going to start fresh. We're going to take everything away, see what things go away, and see what symptoms remain after we strip all of the drugs away. It's a troubleshooting process. What did we change? Okay. Well, let's start with the first thing that we changed. I mean, it started with Ritalin. So it starts with Ritalin, and all of a sudden he's got anxiety. You would think it would be, okay, let's take him off the Ritalin and just go back to where it was. Let's try a different approach for his attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, because the Ritalin, it's just making him anxious. Instead, he ends up on 8 drugs. This 10-year-old kid, 9-year-old kid ends up on 8 different drugs. This is madness. This isn't for the health of the kid. This isn't for the well-being of the kid. This is greed and psychopaths, not the parents, doctors, teachers, everybody is involved in this horrific scene.
Jacob was hospitalized and taken off all his medication. But he was about to be given what was, at the time, a new and controversial diagnosis for a child: bipolar disorder.
Okay, and I think Jacob is a little bit younger than I am, and I'll say why I think that a little bit later. But now they're diagnosing a child with bipolar disorder. Okay.
They stripped him down off of everything, and then within 24 hours, they turned around and said he's bipolar, needs to take lithium.
So
There was no well, isn't there therapy? Nowhere we ever turned was there this therapeutic, was this therapeutic solution. There was nobody ever.
And the thing is, there's tons of people out there that would be like, oh yeah, let's get the kid in sports. How's his diet? What's he eating? Like, I would be super curious if any doctors ever asked, hey, what's his diet like? What's he taking in? See if maybe he's having any sort of, if some foods just don't do well with people. Like, you're not supposed to eat bacon right before bed. It might give you funky dreams because of, I forgot the drug that it can, anyway. How many people tried to take like a naturopathic approach? There's the kooky woo-woo doctors, yeah, but there is healthcare doesn't come from the hospital. Healthcare doesn't come from your doctor. Healthcare comes from the grocery store, farmers markets, trails, the gym, the dojo, reading books. That's where healthcare comes from. It doesn't come from the freaking doctor. And our medical establishment has gone so off the rails that all they see is surgery and drugs, surgery and drugs, surgery and drugs. They never look at a person's habits and try to figure out what it is that this person could do differently that could maybe change their, I'm not just talking about mental health either. I'm talking about physical health now too. Doctors are so quick to just jump to surgery immediately. Any of you out there that have had a torn meniscus, you know what I'm talking about. Every doctor just says, yeah, you need surgery. You got to cut it out. And tons of people that have gone and gotten meniscus surgeries will tell you, like, I wish I never would have done it. Many people that got their second meniscus surgery think they wish they never would have done it. I got a meniscus surgery. I won't get another one. I don't care how bad it gets. I won't get another one unless I get like a full knee replacement. But I kind of wish I wouldn't have got it. Anyway, let's continue. Bipolar disorder. Unreal.
Said, well, we can work with this and through therapy and things like that. Everywhere we looked, it was take meds, take meds, take meds.
Okay, so look what he's doing with his neck here. They describe it. Look what they say rolling his neck. I don't have a kid. If I had a kid, if I witnessed any of my runners doing this, I'd be like, what is happening with you? when did you start doing this? They told me like within the next few days, well, you need to go to the doctor now. Like we need to now. Like, look what he's doing with his neck. Look at this. This is a 14-year-old kid, 13-year-old kid.
Then suddenly, on the morning of his 13th birthday, Jacob woke up with a stiff neck and started rolling his head, a possible side effect of all the medication he'd been taking.
And look at him. He just looks out of it and dazed, like he's pushing through everything that's going on in his head, everything that's going on in his neck. He's pushing through all of that because he's trying to enjoy his birthday and his friends that are there, but he's so zonked out. He's got this. I'm just recognizing this, and you guys will know why I'm recognizing this later.
Most of these doctors were experimenting. They had no clue.
And he's got a Massimo shirt on. I used to have Massimo shirts when I was a kid. I think this dude and me are probably the same age.
And we're just saying, try this, try this. There's nothing worse than seeing your kid, go through something like this.
Over the last 10 years, there's been a steep rise in the diagnosis and treatment of childhood mental illnesses of all types. ADHD, depression, autism, and anxiety disorders.
So I should also remind you that the verdict is still out on any sort of correlation with autism and something that a lot of doctors do to children very early on in life that I can't say on YouTube. You guys getting what I'm saying? So other pharmaceutical things that are given to children, there's a suggestion that a lot of these disorders that happen to kids that require medication are actually from medication, from the pharmaceutical industries, autism, other things that they're mentioning here.
But the biggest controversy has been in the diagnosis of bipolar. Formerly called manic depression, it was long believed to exist only in adults.
Manic depression. So I've heard several people tell me, yeah, when they put me on Ritalin when I was a kid, I just started bawling uncontrollably and I didn't know why. I was just super sad and I couldn't stop crying. Several people have told me exactly that. Well, wouldn't they diagnose that as manic depressive? Well, you just gave the kid Ritalin. Now he's like, I remember how Ritalin made me feel. You are not yourself. It's not fixing anything. That's not fixing anything at all. The Tom Cruise interview with Matt Lauer comes to mind right now.
The diagnosis of childhood bipolar grew out of a series of studies by a group of child psychiatrists at Massachusetts General Hospital, led by Dr. Joseph Biederman. He theorized that many children with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder were actually misdiagnosed.
In 1996, an article is published that announced that 23% of his ADHD population also meet criteria for bipolar disorder. Okay. This was an astonishing announcement that caught most of us quite by surprise, because the notion that even a teenager be diagnosed bipolar was very, very rare.
All right. So all of a sudden they make this connection. What I can't remember what year they said this was, but the years are important. I think it was 93. So they make this connection. Oh, kids that have been diagnosed with ADHD, a lot of these kids that are already on Ritalin, it looks like they're also bipolar, a bunch of these kids. So right when they make this diagnosis and this becomes like the accepted scientific consensus, look what skyrockets.
What he did was he took the written criteria for attention deficit disorder, and he took the written criteria for bipolar disorder. And he said, hey, a lot of these kids that you call ADHD actually fit the criteria for bipolar disorder, which I think attracted a whole lot of people. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, bipolar disorder.
So a bunch of psychiatrists that diagnosed their patients already with ADHD are like, cha-ching, they're already getting paid by all these patients, right? Because they diagnosed them all with Ritalin. They get to call them all back and be like, you know what? We actually need to give your kids more drugs. That's all the kids that these psychiatrists already diagnosed, and then poof, all of a sudden doubling their income, just seeing dollar signs. Pharmaceutical companies, same thing. Psychiatrists, pharmaceutical companies, and then teachers just can't handle kids. So they're like, send them to a psychiatrist and give them drugs and make them a zombie so they sit in the back of my room quietly and I don't have to deal with their brilliance.
Disorder suddenly was being diagnosed left, right, and center.
Our big story at 6, dramatic increase in the number of kids diagnosed as bipolar. Could we really be seeing?
Since Dr. Biederman and his colleagues published their findings, there has been a 4,000% increase in the number of children diagnosed with bipolar.
The question is, should we call them bipolar? And should we be giving them 3 different medicines when they're only 2 years old? And I can tell you that's happening all over the place when they're 2.
The rates of bipolar diagnoses in children have increased markedly in many communities over the last 5 to 7 years. I think the real question is, are those diagnoses right? And in truth, I don't think we yet know the answer.
What you've got out there is a whole...
Okay, so he's like, we're not sure if the diagnosis is right, but that doesn't stop anybody from prescribing these drugs. All right, we're almost done here. Let him finish this.
lot of kids who've been diagnosed with a condition that hasn't really attained respectability yet. And they're receiving medications that have not been fully tested in children.
And we're talking about a generation of men now. I'm a grown-ass man. This started when I was like 6 or 7 years old. And we'll get into that. I'm 39 years old now. And this stuff started in the early 90s with Ritalin. And I am very, very fortunate because I could have been like that kid rolling his neck, because if something would have happened, I would have continued down that road and they would have just kept putting me on more drugs and more drugs. I'm not saying I'm a genius either. Not saying that at all. But I was a very athletic kid. I'm still athletic. I still have a ton of energy still till this day. You know, I coach cross country for a reason, and I run with all the kids every day. I was misdiagnosed, and we'll get into that. Sure, maybe I have ADHD. What does that mean? All right. So this is the post that I have. Sorry, hold on. Sorry. So this is the post that I have going semi-viral right now, and I'll read it to you guys. So when I was a kid, my parents put me on Ritalin. My friends and I used to go to the nurse's office at lunch to take it. We would put it we would put the pill in our cheek, swallow the water in the paper cup, spit the pill in the cup, and throw it in the trash can. We hated how it made us feel, and we were 9 years old at the time. Every now and then, my mom would make me take the pill with a glass of water and check my mouth to see if I had cheeked the pill. In hindsight, this told me that my mom had suspicion that I wasn't actually taking the drugs. Despite having suspicion, this didn't stop the doctor from upping the dosage because the pills apparently weren't working. On one of the occasions that I had to take the pill because my mom checked my mouth afterwards, I had a baseball game. During the game, I couldn't get the bat off my shoulders. I remember swinging at a ball after the catcher had already caught the ball. That night when we got home, it was the angriest I had ever heard my father. He yelled at my mom and told her he's never taking another one of those pills again. I distinctly remember him screaming, "Never again, Kathy." I think my dad saved my life. I'm sorry. I think my dad saved my life protecting me from my evil mom that night. He was the greatest man to ever walk this earth. Many children today aren't so lucky. Obviously, my father wasn't the greatest man to ever walk this earth, but he was to me. All right. And I had one troll I had one dude troll me that tried to say your dad wasn't that great of a man because he married your evil mom. Oh man. Yeah. That took some willpower not to reach through the interwebs and slap the pee out of them. Anyway, all right. So our barracks, nice to see ya. Wally World, J-Bo. Got Northside, Terry Willis, and some troll over on Rumble. Awesome. All right. Well, so that is that's sort of a summation of my experience with Ritalin. They put my I remember I had to go to a place called the Botanica Learning Center. They diagnosed me with ADD when I was in probably, I think it was like third grade, maybe third grade. So I was probably like 6 or 7. And for all the way up until the middle of 5th grade, I think it was. I think that's when the incident happened where my dad put his foot down. So I was on Ritalin from like 3rd grade to like the middle of 5th grade. And I remember it. And yeah, so I had to go to this place called the Botanica Learning Center. It was like this place for, special kids. I was basically told that you're not retarded, but you're a little above that. So I was, from a very early age, I was just made to think I was dumb. I just figured, like all the other kids are smarter than me. And I assumed that for the longest time. And it took me so long to realize, like, oh man, most people are stupid. And anyway, they took me to the Botanica Learning Center, all that, put me on Ritalin. They put me in this program called the RSP program, the Really Stupid People program. Actually, I have a follow-up to this. Maybe I'll read this too. Well, no, I won't read it. They put us in the RSP. They put me in the RSP program. It was called the Reading Specialist program, and we called it Really Stupid People. It was just something funny that we called it. And I remember when I got pulled out of it in 6th grade. This was after they took me off Ritalin, but I was still in the program. And we would have class, and then like 4 or 5 of us would go, we weren't all in the same class, but we would go to this other like classroom. Remember the teacher's name, Miss Wolf. And we would have like our own special classes, and it was mainly for reading. And in 6th grade is when we got introduced to the 5-paragraph essay, and we had to write one every week. That was part of it. I remember my teacher, Mr. Stevens. Mr. Stevens was a gay teacher, and Mr. Stevens, I will never forget Mr. Stevens, because Mr. Stevens was the first person on earth that made me feel smart. First person ever. All the way up until I was in 6th grade, and I was 12 years old at the time, I thought I was dumb. And then Mr. Stevens, I thought I was in trouble. We used to have 5-paragraph essays, but us in the RSP, the Really Stupid People program, we only had to write a paragraph, 5 sentences. That's what we had to do. And I wasn't stupid. I was just lazy. And I remember we only had to write 5 sentences, but I remember the problem that I was having was like, it wasn't enough to convey the idea that I wanted to convey. And I understood the 5-paragraph essay, the thesis statement, introduction paragraph, 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. And that made sense to me like really quickly, really easy. Oh, okay. I get that. Your first, really easy to do. And I almost was like forcing myself to only write 5 sentences because it was hard to only write 5 sentences because I couldn't get my whole idea out. And one night when I was in 6th grade, I just at my desk, I was like, all right, screw this. I'm writing a 5-paragraph essay. I can't remember what it was about, but I wrote it and I turned it in. And I think it was the next day at school. Mr. Stevens, like it was recess or lunch or something, and Mr. Stevens like pulled me back into the classroom, and he had this super stern look on his face, and he looked mad, and I thought I was in trouble. He brings me up there and he sits me down, and he says, "We're taking you out of the RSP program." And I'm like, "What?" Like I thought I was in trouble. Still, I like thought I did something, And he pulls out the paper, and he was like, "How long have you known how to do this? Like you." He was like, not only do you know how to write, like they weren't looking for like a great, well-written paper. They just wanted to show us a 5-paragraph essay. But apparently not only did I turn in a 5-paragraph essay, I wrote like a semi-coherent idea and thought. And he was mad that I'd basically been not challenging myself. And this whole time I was capable of this. And what's the point of all of this is parents didn't recognize that I was just a little different. I'm just a little different. So there's a certain percentage of kids that are athletic. They have lots of energy. They think in a really weird way. They're abstract and creative. Some people that aren't athletic, high energy, abstract, and creative aren't going to recognize that for what it is. Something that should be nurtured and challenged and force this kid to excel. That's when they bounce off the walls, when they aren't challenged, not drugging them up. And So my dad was the first person to put his foot down and say, no, we're not giving him these drugs anymore. And it was just poof, gone. Those drugs were out of my life. Just like that. At, I believe it was 9 years old. And I'm very, very glad because I excelled in baseball. I always excelled in baseball. And I excelled after that. And then Mr. Stevens made me realize, hey, I'm not stupid. They pulled me out of the RSP program. After that, I went on to junior high and ended up making an honors roll in 7th and 8th grade. And then I go into high school and I got into a little trouble early on, but I ended up graduating with a 4.0. And it's just my case is everyone. I bet a high percentage of kids that are diagnosed with ADHD have my exact same story. They were actually really smart and talented kids that were blunted, that were bubble wrapped and nerfed. It's horrific. It's horrific what people did to their kids. They took away leaders from us, is what they did. These are people that are meant to think outside of the box and come up with creative solutions that people that draw inside the lines don't think of. So that's sort of my story with the big pharma early on and my dad. But I mean, there's some very important people in my life all the way through my life that just had a huge influence on me and made me realize that I'm capable of more than I thought I was capable of. And Mr. Stevens was definitely one of those. So I went back to visit Mr. Stevens all the way up until I was in college. I went and visited him once every couple of years. I mean, that man, such a great man. He changed my life, and I'll never forget him for that. 6th grade teacher. I'll never forget him. Anyway, let's get into a little bit of what these drugs are, shall we? Let's go over to ADHD drugs and check this out. Our barracks teachers inspire. What we have now are teacher union employees. Damn straight, man. Yeah. So I know a teacher that is what's called a super sub. And the reason she's a super sub and can't be a teacher, she might be a teacher now. I'm not sure if she's still a super sub, but she had trouble getting actual teaching gigs because she refuses to join the teachers union. Refuses to. They won't do it. And if you refuse to join the teachers union and you're a teacher, they will do everything they can to keep you from good gigs, and they'll try to railroad you. So no, you're absolutely right with that, man. This teachers union is an enemy of students. Why don't the students need a union? Who's representing the students? So on that note, any of you guys that are watching and you have a problem with public schools, your kids are in public schools, you need to go to the California Parents Union. It's my lawyer, Tracy Henderson. She went on Tucker Carlson with me. She's amazing. She is absolutely amazing. And she is fighting the teachers union. She's the one that's doing it probably more than anybody in California. Tracy Henderson, California Parents Union. She's big on Instagram. Go check her out on Instagram. But she is doing the Lord's work. She is going to war for you guys, and you don't even know it. And they need funding. So anyway, I'll share the ADHD drug stuff. So let's go to, this is PBS. This is just a news article that they did, but it's all about, I just wanted to know, I wanted some stats on how much Ritalin is prescribed year over year. And that's what I was looking for. So statistics. So let's go here to Ritalin statistics. Okay. So actually, no, let me go back. I want to read something else first really quick. Okay. So on average, 2 or 3 students in the U.S. classrooms are on some kind of behavioral modifying drug, and the numbers are increasing. Why? Here are the views of Harvey Parker, child psychologist and founder of Children and Adolescents with ADHD, an advocacy group. Harold Koplowitz, MD, director. Okay, they're just naming a bunch of names. So The Ritalin explosion is what this is called. This is a whole bunch of articles. I'm not going to have time to get into all these different articles, but so this is called The Ritalin Explosion by Harvey Parker. And yeah, it's a long one. So I don't even know if I'll be able to read this whole thing, but I'll at least read your first few paragraphs for you. So yeah, The Ritalin Explosion by Harvey Parker. There might be a lot of skepticism among general public about this because they think, well, I was a child. There was no ADHD patients in my classroom. So what has changed? I think there is a lot of skepticism about ADHD. It's one of the areas of psychology and psychiatry that we know a great deal about. Yet it's one of the most controversial diagnoses in the area of mental health. ADHD children have been around for as long as there's been people. We've always seen people who are hyperactive, inattentive, or had difficulty concentrating or organizing themselves. But more so, we've paid attention to those behaviors and labeling them differently. Before we used to label them in ways as bad children having behavioral problems, and now we see that it's really not under their control so much. And we see them more as children suffering from neurobiological disorders or self-control attention problems. So there hasn't been a tremendous increase in the number of children with ADHD. It's not like it's in the water and you become infected by it. Okay. So to me, the whole ADHD diagnosis is because these kids don't fit into this prescribed box, this prescribed government outlined box of what the education system is supposed to be, which is supposed to put out compliant little worker bee drones that show up on time, do what they're told, and don't ask questions. Okay, well, there's a lot of kids that are, I think of them as Liberty kids that are going to question authority. Kids that aren't just going to accept the answer because the adult told them this is the way it is. Like, well, why? Why is that the way it is? That doesn't make sense to me. Can you explain it to me? Why is that the way it is? There's smart kids out there. There's smart kids that aren't just going to take what you tell them and run with it. They're going to question you. And those kids, to me, seem like the ones that are getting diagnosed with ADHD. So I'm not going to read this whole guy's article because Harvey Parker already, to me, sounds like a quack, and I don't like him. So you guys can read that on your own if you want. The Ritalin Explosion by Harvey Parker. It seems like this is some MD that is freaking justifying why there's so much Ritalin going around right now. So let's go to the Ritalin abuse statistics. Yeah. Actually. Okay, this isn't that long. While prescriptions for Ritalin, methylphenidate grew dramatically in the 90s, reports of its illegal use also rose. Here's a range of official statistics on the problem. According to the University of Michigan annual monitoring for future studies from 1988 through 99, the percentage of seniors who reported using Ritalin without a prescription went from 0.3% to 2.4%. That's a huge increase. In fact, it's now in its 1994 report, data indicated that at the time there were more U.S. high school seniors who abused Ritalin than there were seniors who were legally prescribed the drug. So from my understanding, Ritalin has the opposite effect on people after they've gone through puberty. It's meant to like mellow kids out, but after you've gone through puberty, it has the opposite effect on you, and it makes you like off the walls banana balls because it's meth. Okay. According to a 1996 Drug Enforcement Agency DEA study, the three states, Wisconsin, South Carolina, and Indiana, roughly 30 to 50% of adolescent, that's a huge range. 30 to 50%, that's a pretty big range, guys. Percent of adolescents in drug treatment centers reported non-medical use of methylphenidate. However, it wasn't identified as their primary drug of abuse. Okay, so as the prescriptions for Ritalin have gone through the roof, so has the illegal use of it. And I would imagine a lot of kids are like, yeah, I hate the way this makes me feel, so I'll just go ahead and sell it to these kids that want it. And then their parents are like, these drugs aren't working. Let's increase the dosage, or let's try another drug. And they just give the kids more drugs. It's a vicious cycle. In a 1998 Indiana University study of 44,232 students found that 6.8% of ninth graders surveyed reported using Ritalin illicitly at least once. The DEA Drugs of Concern Bulletin lists Ritalin alongside cocaine, LSD, and ecstasy. Testifying before the House Subcommittee in May 2000, DEA Deputy Director Terrence Woodworth said that the extent to which adolescents are abusing methylphenidate is unknown, but the anecdotal evidence suggests that its instance seems to have increased with the availability of the drug. Oh, you think? In a statement to the committee, Woodworth said that continued increases in the medical prescriptions of these drugs without the appropriate safeguards can only lead to increased stimulant abuse among children. Yeah, and it's funny how they're comparing it to LSD. Because it's like a lot of people think that psilocybin mushrooms there could be therapeutic effects for depression and things that these kids might be diagnosed with, you know. It's funny. The Drug Abuse Warning Network's 1999 report on drug abuse related visits to hospital emergency departures shows a 1,478 mentions for methylphenidate abuse, down from 1,728 in 98. In contrast, there were 168,763 cocaine related visits to hospital emergency rooms. Okay. All right. So I was looking for a graph earlier because I wanted to see. Yeah, I wanted to see a graph showing the increase, like how much it's been prescribed over time. Because I wanted to compare that graph to something else. There we go. Statistics on stimulant use with charts. Okay, this is what I was looking for, I believe. Yes. Okay, so this is what I was looking for. The production of methylphenidate, Ritalin, and legal production of amphetamine in the form of Adderall and Dexedrine in the U.S. has soared since 1990. Since these drugs are considered to be potential drugs of abuse under the Controlled Substances Act, the DEA sets quotas regarding the amount of drugs that may be produced each year to meet the demands for legitimate use, in order to ensure that there is not a surplus of production which could lead to drug diversion or illegal use. The dramatically rising production quotas show below mirror the growing demand for prescription in the U.S. According to the testimony of DEA Deputy Director Terrence Woodworth before the House Subcommittee on Early Childhood, Youth, and Families in May 2000, the methylphenidate quota increased from 1,768 kilograms in 1990 to 14,957 kilograms in 2000. Wow. And the amphetamine quota increased from 417 to 9,007. Insane. All right, so here's the chart. And this chart shows it starts in 1990. And the blue bar is Ritalin. So this is the blue bar in Ritalin. And then amphetamine, Adderall, is the gray bar. So you can see right around 95 is when Adderall really starts to take off. And then it starts to try and catch up with Ritalin. Ritalin always stayed ahead. But you can see 90, 91, 92, 93, 94 stayed pretty flat all those years while Ritalin was increasing all those years. And then 95, they both increased. But you can see Adderall increasing at a higher rate than Ritalin then. So it's just curious. This goes all the way up to the year 2000. So this starts in 1990. And then you see, Ritalin, yeah, it has just freaking skyrocketed. It's just, this chart is insane that we're looking at. But what is this one? Oh, and this is prescriptions. So IMS Health and private prescription auditing firm, according to their data, the vast majority of prescriptions for amphetamine and for Ritalin are children diagnosed with ADHD. Methylphenidate prescriptions rose dramatically in the early 90s and have since leveled off at approximately 11 million per year. In comparison, Amphetamine prescriptions, primarily Adderall, have increased dramatically recently, from 1.3 million in 1996 to nearly 6 billion in 1999. Yeah, because all the Silicon Valley tech workers realized that they could code for 49 hours straight if they just stay hopped up on Adderall. Silicon Valley is on Adderall. Anyway. All right, so this chart shows actual prescriptions. So amphetamines in the black, Ritalin is in the gray, and then total is just the blue bar. Yeah, okay. So yeah, just pharmaceutical for attention deficit disorder drugs, and also antidepressants, which I haven't even pulled up. We haven't even gotten into antidepressants. We haven't gotten into any of that. All of that has increased pretty much at the same rate, and we learned why earlier, because all of a sudden, kids get a tick and they're like, well, just give them another drug. Let's see. Check the chat really quick here. Dissent is being removed from children and adults via medication. Imagine if they couldn't medicate Thomas Paine. So this is what happened to California. California is heavily medicated. Yes, California is indeed heavily medicated. Northside, you're not a troll, bro. Coach, your story sounds identical to one of my best homies, also a long distance running. Yeah, we're a different breed, man. I'm telling you. Most of the drugs are meth derivatives. Ritalin is methylphenidate. Yeah, I was just talking about that. Northside, you and I are always on the same page, man. All right, let's get back to it. So, okay, I think that's pretty much what I want to talk about for the drugs. And we'll get into, sorry, folks. We'll get into a correlation that I'm not going to, it doesn't necessarily mean causation, but we should at least show something else that could be related to the increase in pharmaceuticals. So I want to go to an article from psychreg.org, and this is written by Caleb Owens, published the 26th of January in 2021. And it was updated in 2023, in January of 2023. So I don't even need to share the article on screen. So let's see. And it's not a super long, it's kind of a long article. I may not end up reading the whole thing, but we'll get into it a little bit. Oh, man. Oh, geez. I've been talking for a long time already. I'm only going for an hour. Yeah, there's no way I'm going to have time to read all of this. But let's talk about it a little bit. According to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, a mass murder occurs when at least 4 people are murdered, not including the shooter. Over a relatively short period of time during a single incident over the last 30 years, the U.S. has seen a significant increase in mass shootings, which are booming more frequently and more deadly. I need to skip all of them. Actually, here, we can go to this video. I believe there is a correlation with the rise in antidepressants and ADHD drugs, whatever those are categorized as. There seems to be a correlation with increased gun violence. And when I hear mass shootings, I think somebody walking into an occupied area and indiscriminately shooting people. Now things that are being categorized as mass shootings, and a lot of which end up being gang violence, and this is sort of a byproduct of the times that we live in because of these Glock switches and extended magazines that are going all over the place. None of which are those are all outlawed. They shouldn't be. So I could go purchase it at the store and have the same thing that might be pointed at me out on the streets, because these things are everywhere. Glock switches, you guys aren't familiar with them, is a little piece, they call them buttons. They're a little piece of plastic that you put on the back of your Glock, and it allows your Glock to cycle like a fully auto gun. You just hold down the trigger and it will dump the magazine. So what you see is a lot of these kids hold down the trigger and they just spray. They don't aim, and you end up with a lot of people shot. A lot of those are categorized as mass shootings. So a lot of these is a byproduct of the time. But when I think of mass shootings, I'm thinking of stuff like, Columbine, the Las Vegas shooting, which is super suspect, the Tennessee shooter, where we still don't have the manifesto, where the guy that dressed up as Bane and went into that movie theater and started opening fire. Was that Aurora, Colorado, where the 3 dudes jumped over their girlfriends and saved their lives, and all 3 of the dudes died because toxic masculinity is a good thing. Like, those are what I think of as mass shootings, and there seems to be a correlation with the increase in pharmaceuticals and that. So let's go look at the mass shootings. So let's go over to Statista here on the interwebs. I'm gonna have a lot more time to talk. I'm only going an hour tonight. I'm not going longer. I'm not doing it, guys. Not doing it. All right, let's see. What the heck just happened? Oh, did I share the wrong thing? I did. Why did I do that? Sorry, I already shared that with you guys. I'm being dumb. Sorry. Where are you? Statista. Let's see. Yeah, what the heck happened? Oh. That's why, because I'm stupid. Okay. I think it's this one. Yeah, okay. So, number of mass shootings in the United States between 1982 and August 2023. So, basically, when I was born to today. So, you can see it stays pretty flat until we get to 1999, and then boom, all of a sudden there's 5. But 82, and then all of a sudden you get a 100% increase. There's 1 in 1982, and you get 100% increase in 1984. You got 2 of them. And you can see it going up at a fairly decent click until it gets to around 1994. And all of a sudden it shoots up. Okay, 4 doesn't sound like a lot, but in 83 and 85, there's none. There's only 1 per year from up until 1990. And all of a sudden there was 2. And then boom, in 1993, we get 4 of them. And then like clockwork, about 7 years later, there's 5. And then in 2012, it jumps up to 7. And then, wow, recently now why did it jump up so high all of a sudden so recently? Because they started categorizing them differently. That's why. There wasn't an increase. They just started calling different things mass shootings. So they went from, the all-time high was 7, and then all of a sudden it jumps up all the way up to 11 in 2017. And 2000, it's funny. This is all during Trump's presidency. Interesting. So, all right. I'm just trying to make I'm not saying it's causation, but there certainly seems to be a correlation between increased gun violence and these drugs that are being prescribed. Many of cases seem to be needlessly. So before we get out of here, I do want to talk really quick about New York because they found the dude. They found the dude that stabbed that Antifa liberal dude to death on the street. We all saw the footage. But they made an arrest, and a lot of people are speculating. That this dude, that his chick had something to do with it. So this is from Andy No. So Andy No says local media captured the moment when the Brooklyn murderer suspect of Antifa activist Ryan Carson was released by NYPD. CBS News censored Brian Downing's face. Neither Carson's BLM activist girlfriend, Claudia Morales, nor the police have addressed rumors that she was uncooperative in the early investigation. Originally, the law enforcement sources told media the police did not have a physical description of the person, no gender, who stabbed Carson. So a lot of people are suspect of the chick and how she was acting while he was getting stabbed, just saying he was super weird. But though CBS censored the arrest of Brian Downing, the murder suspect in the killing of Antifa activist Ryan Carson, the New York Post published the first clear photos of him. Carson's friends said that he would likely view his murderer as a victim of the system, giving his devotion to abolishing law enforcement. So here's a picture of the kid, 18-year-old kid, and it looks like he's crying in the back of a cop car. He was all hard and, stabs a guy in the chest and then threatens his chick with the knife. Well, this is the tough guy. This is the murderer. It appears to be this kid right here. Dude will stab an unarmed man in the chest to death. This is a kid. What a little punk. That's where they censored it. So that's kid. Unreal. So that's the update. That's the update on the. Looks like they got him. That's the update on the stabbing of the Antifa guy. So crazy how, like this. Jake Shield says, people say it's mean to mock a dead man, but men like this need to be mocked. I wouldn't feel the need if he was getting innocent people killed with his ideology. Brooklyn activist Ryan Thorson calls Carson would feel sorry for violent teenager who stabbed him to death and think of him as a victim of a broken system. Say friends. Okay. All right. Well, that's it. Oh, there's just. I saved this to my bookmarks. I guess I didn't even notice this one. Some dude just another random attack. There's so many of these random attacks. Look at this one. What the? Oh my god! Are you guys see this? And it's always freaking Asian people. Look at this. It's just a random attack. Just slugs her right in the face. Why is this happening so much? Random people getting punched, random people getting pushed over really hard to the ground, random people getting stabbed. What is going on? Look at this again. Watch. That was a full on like left hook to the straight to her nose. Listen. What do you mean? Hey, you okay? What the heck? And then he acts like, what happened? Unreal. Sorry, that just caught my attention. I forgot I even had it in my bookmarks, but just figured I'd play it since it was right there. All right, folks. I think that is about it for the evening. I think that is all we got. So, am I going to talk Wally World? Am I going to talk about the homeless pirates in San Francisco Bay? Yeah. So, yeah, maybe I will tomorrow. Wally World, if you got something cool on that, send it to me. I got a couple of articles I read on it, but there's not a ton to talk about. There's people that live on houseboats in San Francisco Bay and they're getting robbed. Like it's insane. Yeah, the San Francisco Bay legit has pirates out in like the Richmond area. Yeah, it's insane. Yeah, so that's going on. But yeah, Raleigh World, our barracks, J-Bo. Yeah, thank you guys for hanging out. You guys over on Rumble, Northside, Terry Wallace. Always good to see you guys. Yeah, you're right. The kid that stabbed the Antifa dude is an 18-year-old kid. So, yep, that's what's going on there. All right, folks. Well, you know how we do it. I can't just end the show. First, we have to go to a joke from the greatest book ever written, The Truth About Chuck Norris. Let's see what we have this evening. What do we have, folks? All right, I like this one. This one's good. Okay. All right, folks. Here's the Chuck Norris joke of the evening. So many of you may not know this, but a handicap parking sign does not signify that the spot is for handicapped people. It is actually a fact, a warning sign that spot belongs to Chuck Norris and that you will be handicapped if you park there. And on that note, folks, stay CaliBased.